All right, so
Your sticker.
thank you. So I'm just gonna ask you to state your name.
Yeah. Oh.
And then
Yeah. Do I look at the camera or look at you?
you can look at me.
Okay. Savannah Jane Griffin is my name.
Now, Professor Griffin, when did you start to get inspired by, or like when did you what inspired you to do all this community service around like DeLand, Florida, and the community?
I think growing up in the high school and the middle school I went to, they had service opportunities, and I was always really interested in the community around me. And then coming to Stetson, there were a lot of opportunities to get involved in the community they had Into the Streets, which were days of service basically, and then Green Feather as part of that committee. And being a student here, I really fell in love with DeLand and in love with the nonprofit organizations that I had worked with as a student. And I had always known that, you know, my goals professionally were to do something in community engagement, and I wasn't exactly sure what. My two loves were working with the community and sports, because sports played a big role in my life and developing me as a leader. And so when I was a senior in college, that's kind of what my goal was, and I tried out the sports community engagement, and I liked it. Tennis, I was at the United States Tennis Association working in the community, but tennis wasn't like the sport that I played, so I wasn't as like passionate about that, but I really enjoyed actually being in the community. And then Stetson gave me a call and asked me to fill the community engagement specialist position. And when I came into it, it was a new position, so I didn't know exactly what my role was and what I needed to do. And at the time, my supervisor was like, oh, well, you'll just coordinate a volunteer fair and support student initiatives in the community. So I had asked, you know, what does that look like? And so the volunteer fair, we would bring nonprofit organizations to campus. And so I had decided to start contacting and doing site visits at these nonprofit organizations to assess what their needs are and figure out ways that we can partner Stetson with their organizations. And through that experience, going to these different nonprofit sites and hearing their stories and why they do what they do, and seeing the vast amount of needs that they have, just made me want to connect them with resources that we had here. And I think that kind of, and then also seeing the need in our community. Through doing these site visits, I ended up signing up to volunteer more. And so I was volunteering at the Boys and Girls Club. I got 2 service dogs I like to train. I went a little overboard in the beginning. This was before I had kids. So I signed up to be on the board for the Main Street DeLand Association. I just started to be more involved because I saw these needs. And so seeing the needs and being able to connect resources and seeing it do well, and seeing these nonprofit organizations thrive through the partnerships that were created, it just inspired me to continue to work more in our community and educate our students and our community members on the needs that our community has, because I see many times people are very focused on their goals and what they're doing, and they don't really look around to see what they could be doing in our community.
Now, have you been impressed with the amount of like help you have gotten from the Stetson community and like the improvements you guys have done around like DeLand?
Yeah, I think many times when I first got here, there was a lot of work being done, but in silos. So, you know, a fraternity or sorority might be focused on their national philanthropy. A faculty member might be focused on their specific type of research and working with a nonprofit, but we weren't really communicating with each other. We didn't have an infrastructure in place to see what each other were doing and put resources together. And so now I'm trying to remember what the question was. What was the question? It was,
have you been impressed like with the improvements around the city of DeLand?
Yeah, and so being able to be part of the process and be at the table and seeing how we can connect people over the past 10 years. You know, you work day to day and you have small wins, but when I look back to where we were and where we are now, just some of the partnerships we've created, some of the programs that like our volunteer income tax assistance program with United Way. We hit our $1 million mark last year, 2 years ago, of tax refunds, tax returns given to low-income families in our community, and that was because students. We did a volunteer drive. They came, they signed up, they were certified as tax preparers, and they helped these low-income families get their tax returns done for free. And there's a lot of credit predators that come out and recruit these low-income families and say, we'll give you your tax return today, and then they take half of whatever return they're supposed to have as income for themselves. So seeing like programs like that, or looking at Stark Elementary, which was an F-ranked school, and seeing our education department and our student education majors go to that school and volunteer and help the kids and help the teachers. It's not just Stetson that's made the impact; it's our whole community. But I can see the impact that's happened over time, and I am really impressed with the way our community has come together and helped support when they see a need. We've helped support helping with that need.
Now, have you seen like a closer relationship between us, the Stetson community, and the DeLand community?
Yeah, I think so. I think we have a lot of connections with the city of DeLand. Not only their employees, the city manager is an alumni of Stetson. And his assistant manager is an alumni of the Masters, the MBA program. So there's connections with the employees there, but also we have a lot of, we have one of our Stetson staff members who serves as a city commissioner, or he was a staff member, now he's contracted with Stetson, so he's well connected with our university. And a lot of the people on the city commission are connected to Stetson in some capacity. Our head of facilities, Dave Rigsby, is a past mayor of DeLand.
Okay.
So I see like the connections there, and I think our university our president has been in communication and with the city of DeLand and some of the VPs at Stetson. So like you look at our football stadium, and that was a partnership between DeLand and Stetson. So I think that the relationship has grown over the past 10 years since I've been here, and I hope that it continues to grow.
Now, you just were in charge of Values Day. Could you explain what Values Day is?
So there's some context behind it. Our previous president, Doug Lee, created Values Day after we disaffiliated from the Baptist Convention, and so the reason behind that was because when we're disaffiliating from the Baptist Convention, we're no longer a Baptist institution. So in the past we were recruiting Baptist students, but disaffiliating from that opens up the doors to recruit any students, which we recruited all students previously, but most Baptist students came to our institution. So he created a diversity town hall meeting, and in that the hopes were to kind of figure out how we get a diverse recruit diverse students, faculty, and staff to come to our institution, because they're no longer Baptist affiliated. So over time, we talked as an institution about what our values are, and in 2011 they reevaluated our values statement and came up with the current values statement, and they decided that Diversity Day, or the town hall meeting that was created, there's still a huge need for that, but that we should expand it to all of our values and call it Values Day. And we didn't have as much student participation in the past when it was diversity town hall meeting. It was more faculty and staff that attended. So when we changed it to Values Day, a group of faculty, staff, and students came up with the idea of having service projects where they're going out into the community and learning about our community, workshops that included student presentations and community partner presentations, our global citizenship fair where people could actually sign up to volunteer or intern at different places. So it's not just about our community anymore, it's about learning about the community in DeLand and how we can make an impact.
Awesome. All right, Professor Griffin, thank you very much.
Yeah. Cool.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Awesome.
If you need anything